Chelsea just keep getting better and better. Look, I know we're playing Southampton, but that is a performance that just underlines how capable this Chelsea team are becoming. We've rotated 7 players tonight. You know what? Straight away, as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, risky. And they dealt with it with ease. You know, when Southampton pulled it back to 1-1 very quickly, I thought, right, under Poch last season, this young squad, sometimes they struggled when that situation occurred. They've moved on now. They don't struggle in that situation anymore. They absolutely thrive. They go on to put 4 more goals past that team at 1-1. Yes, Southampton have got a lot of issues. The relentless deciding to play out from the back, playing balls into midfield under immense pressure, obviously isn't working for them. We can all see that. The whole Premier League can. I actually think that as players, they're probably starting to get a little bit embarrassed because it's week in, week out now. But Chelsea, on the other hand, fair play to Maresca, because making 7 changes for a Premier League game, not a Conference League game, indicates that he has a lot of belief and a lot of trust in every single player in the squad. And by doing that, it only adds more belief when you go and get a result like this, because he knows he can trust them. How many of these players played against Newcastle in that League Cup defeat, and we thought as a fan base they were pretty underwhelming and they might have let themselves down and they let Chelsea down, and maybe Maresca might have doubted them. And then tonight they go and deliver that sort of performance. Players who have been struggling for minutes or lost their place from starting every week. I mean, the player to look at since he lost his place, Enzo Fernandez. I mean, look, I have been a harsh critic of him, but how can you not be when the performances that he's put in for such a long time now haven't been good enough? And then all the news broke about his personal life, and he's had an injury that's obviously hindered him an awful lot. In recent weeks, since that Panathinaikos game, this is a player changed. This is a player who looks like he might be worth the money that we paid. This is a turnaround similar to what Mark Cucurella has made. When everything is against you, when people are starting to say we're moving away from that player, he's never going to be the player we thought he was going to be, and they have this fight about them to turn it around. That shows me they're actually good enough and mentally strong enough to play for Chelsea. Chelsea's a club that requires players to play at a very, very good level. We're there to go and win trophies as a club. There's pressure on every single player that pulls on that blue shirt, and some players just don't live up to it. I think of players like Morata, that springs to mind. A good start, and then they just wilt away because they just actually don't have it in them to be good enough for Chelsea. Someone like Enzo Fernandez, I thought he was going that way. Well, I have to say, on tonight's performance and recent evidence, this is a player that is starting to look very, very important for this Chelsea team. Just when only a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the fan base started to think that Romeo Lavia and Caicedo might be the reason we start to move away from him, he has absolutely leveled up his game. I mean, I said it in my last video that, yeah, we're looking special and we are really starting to build something. We're looking better and better. And Enzo Fernandez is a huge reason for that. I mean, in and out of possession, he looks miles better, way more dynamic. He's getting around the pitch, not with ease, but a lot more easier than what he was a few weeks ago. He looked like he couldn't cope with the intensity of the Premier League for quite some time. Now, it doesn't look like it's an issue, which has also given him a lot more time on the ball. He's getting on the ball in areas where it's a little bit more compact, and he's able to deal with it. He's not under immense pressure. He's not isolated. Yes, Caicedo, Gusto, Cucurella, Lavia, they've removed his defensive sort of requirements that he's going to have in a game. You know, that's been freed. And he is allowed to be sort of where he wants and free roam a little bit. And the other creative players around him, Felix, Palmer, they're thriving off of each other. Madueke, they all know to make a run when Enzo's on the ball now. Similar to when Fabregas used to get on the ball for Chelsea. And then Costa would know to go and Pedro would know to go. We're starting to see that now because there's a little bit of belief in Enzo Fernandez to actually be able to play the right pass. And I know people are going to be saying, don't get carried away, it's against Southampton, but this isn't just against Southampton. This was against Aston Villa. This has been a consistent run of games from Enzo Fernandez, which we haven't seen in a Chelsea shirt. And I have to heap the praise on here because it's not a small turnaround. This is, for me, dramatic. The numbers that he's been putting up in recent weeks are astounding. A lot of assists, goals from a midfield position at Chelsea. That 8 looks a little bit less heavy on his back at the moment. I mean, that's a big number to wear at Chelsea. That holds a lot of weight. Frank Lampard is the guy who made that 8 a massive number at Chelsea. And to pull that on, you're going to feel the pressure. Chelsea fans look at that 8 and see that one of their greatest ever players. Enzo come in for the type of money that a player of that quality probably would cost, but we haven't seen it. And we are in recent weeks. We're seeing a player transformed. And I have to say, when I see that, it gives me so much faith going forward that that player, like I said a minute ago, has got what it takes to play for Chelsea because they can ride the storm that comes their way and they come out the other side so much better for it. And long may that continue. And we're moving on swiftly to the other Enzo. Enzo Maresca. He comes from Italy. He is winning the fans over massively. Gosh, how I've missed that at Chelsea. I don't think we've sung a manager... All right, we sung Super Frank, but I don't think we've sung a manager's name since Tuchel. I've not felt a connection to a manager. And yet I've had, not issues with Maresca, but question marks over some things about players that were getting on the ball in certain areas because I felt like we were limiting this Chelsea side a little bit with the certain players that were arriving in certain areas. In recent weeks, we've seen less of those players who aren't necessarily blessed going forwards arriving in those areas. I'm looking at Cucurella, I'm looking at Gusto. Yes, they're doing well when they get to those positions, but it's a little bit less frequent now. We're seeing the likes of Enzo Fernandez get in those areas. Cole Palmer, Noni Madueke, Pedro Neto, João Felix, Nkunku, Jackson. They're the players that you want to see in those attacking areas for Chelsea. And Maresca's done a fantastic job in recent weeks of just sort of taking the shackles off and allowing these attacking players to go forward in bigger numbers, to be a little bit more risk adverse when we're in possession. You know, I felt like at times, and yes, it probably is a slower process than I believe it should be, but we were a little bit hesitant to commit a few more bodies forward. Well, we're doing it now, and defensively we're coping. And definitely against the worser teams. I think a Leicester, I think a Southampton. These are the teams where you need to let our players be free because they will dominate a game and they will take apart a team with ease. Tonight wasn't like Wolves, wasn't like, I think about Brighton, West Ham, where on the counter-attack we were formidable. Yes, at times tonight on the counter-attack we were very good. And I think this Chelsea team will always have that strength. They are very, very good individual players that are incredibly good in those very quick transitions at taking advantage of the situation. We've seen that. But under Maresca in recent weeks, he's kind of been moving this Chelsea team away from that. And we've moved into a team that are so capable now of breaking down a team, pressing a team in a calculated manner where we can either win the ball back very, very high and create something, or actually break a team down now when we have possession, but we're facing a number of players between the ball and the goal. Whereas we weren't able to do that in a few months or a few matches ago in this season. We've definitely taken step forward in recent weeks. Post that last international break, this Chelsea team are looking very, very good. Leicester, Villa, this. Very, very, very confident in this Chelsea team to go through this Christmas period now with rotation and navigate it. Chelsea are getting better and better we find ourselves in a fantastic position in the table. All right, some people might have predicted it. I certainly didn't. I didn't know what to expect this season. I just had a minimum expectation. We are above and beyond that now. And I have to say, fair play to Maresca, because I think he came in as a manager with a lot of pressure. He came in as a championship manager with a lot of question marks. And yes, it's still a marathon and not a sprint. But I'm seeing this guy learn from mistakes that he's made, learn to adapt to the Premier League, learn how to get the best out of these players, get the fans on side, be cool in interviews, be brutally honest with some players, be brutal in his team selection, get the best out of players that have struggled in the past. I mean, look at Sancho tonight with that goal. Sancho looks like a player transformed under Maresca. And yes, we were questioning whether or not he was okay and whether or not that relationship had broken down. Maybe he was just ill and unfit and he just got a little bit unlucky, because he's come back and he's firing again. Maresca's improving so many players. I see him on the touchline drilling Enzo Fernandez. And then you wonder why he's improving, because maybe he actually understands how to make this player better, not just run him into the ground like Poch did. And when it comes to a system, yeah, he's actually willing to change it up a bit. I know some people were suggesting that he's only got one way of playing. And yes, he's got his ideologies, but he is changing the system in different games. You know what his system is fantastic at doing? His idea of football is to get his best players on the ball as often as possible in the right areas. And for a few weeks, like I said, it was probably the wrong players arriving. But now it's the right players, and look how good we look. And we even rotated some of our best players this season. No Neto, no Jackson. Players like Nkunku, Felix stepping up. Madueke's been questioned in recent weeks. No goal in 7. Goes and wins player of the match tonight. Even though for me it was probably Enzo. Cole Palmer's scoring again. Scoring from set pieces where we haven't looked great this season. Chelsea are a team that are capable of really building something here. And yes, I've had my question marks. And yes, under a different manager, I wasn't sure, because he wasn't getting the best out of players. And it took a long time. Maresca is doing what a good manager does. And they learn and adapt very, very quickly. And they get the best out of their best players. And they get them on the pitch at the same time. And yes, there will always be casualties, because not everyone can play when you've got a squad the size of Chelsea's. But sometimes that has to happen for Chelsea to go and win titles. I've seen some of my favourite ever Chelsea players leave, and we've only gone and improved. And I have to congratulate everyone at Chelsea at the moment, because we are moving in the right direction. We're in a fantastic position in the Premier League, and long may this continue. It's a young side, remember that. But I have a lot of belief in this team to really push on over this Christmas break. I really, really do. Let's see where we are on the other side of it. Come back to this video. Fingers crossed we are still in this position in the Prem and we keep this form going, because we are looking very, very good. I'll catch you all in a bit. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. We're on the road to 4,000. If we could do it before the new year, that'd be fantastic. But we'll get there eventually, I'm sure of it. Make sure to like the video. We'll go for 30 likes. Chelsea are looking phenomenal.